New day, new argument. This is for the Christians of TikTok.
Well, I'm on TikTok, so I guess I count. What you got?
Christians, how come you don't know that Jesus could have never been the Messiah?
Probably because he is the Messiah and he fulfilled all these scriptures, and some of which he couldn't even have controlled the circumstances in order to do so. So let me ask you, why do you say this? How can you come to that conclusion? What is your evidence?
You're probably asking me why I say this, how I can come to that conclusion, and what is my evidence. The evidence I have is the genealogies that Jesus has inside of the Gospels, as well as the history given to us inside of the Old Testament.
Oh yeah, that's a fun one. In fact, I posted a video on that not too long ago, explaining how Joseph's genealogy gives Jesus the royal right to become king, but bypasses a curse of Jehoiakim or Mattaniah, while the bloodline of Mary makes him a son of David, which gives him the right to be the Messiah. And only Jesus could fulfill both of those things.
We'll break some of that down right now. First off, inside of the book of Matthew, it claims that Jesus is a descendant of King Jeconiah.
No, it claims he's in the line of King Jeconiah, but he was not born of Joseph. It wasn't Joseph's seed. He was born of the Holy Spirit in Mary. So the only blood in there was Mary's blood.
But there is a problem. There is something known as the Jeconiah curse, where Jeconiah and his entire bloodline, all of his descendants, are cursed to never be able to sit on the Davidic royal throne ever again.
Absolutely true. So because Jesus is not a blood son of Joseph, therefore he was able to bypass that curse. But, I'm sure you're not done yet.
Which also excludes them from ever being the Messiah too. So that disqualifies Jesus.
Well, let's make it clear. You only had to be a son of David to be the Messiah, not a son of Jeconiah.
Second, inside of Luke's genealogy, it claims that he is a descendant of Nathan, the other son of David.
Right, that's Mary's genealogy because she's Mrs. Joseph, but go ahead.
The problem with that is, according to Samuel, the prophet, it claims that the Davidic royal bloodline can only go through Solomon, so that also disqualifies Jesus.
Right, that's what Matthew established. Luke was establishing the bloodline, and Matthew was establishing the royal right. It still fits.
And lastly, the other big problem with Jesus not being able to be the Messiah, nor being qualified, nor being part of the Davidic royal bloodline, is because the Davidic royal bloodline went extinct about 570 years before Jesus was ever born. If you don't know this, this is recorded in 2 Kings, Ezekiel, and in Jeremiah, where King Zedekiah was the last Davidic king. He, after getting defeated, was blinded, but not before both of his sons, the last heirs of the Davidic royal bloodline, were executed in front of him. And then he was blinded and exiled and ultimately died in exile.
Right, so this is where the understanding of genealogy and royal right really helps. So Zedekiah was the uncle of Jehoiakim, also called Jeconiah or Coniah, who had briefly reigned before him. Jehoiakim was exiled to Babylon earlier, but he survived and had children. So the Bible records Jehoiakim's descendants continuing after his exile. For example, in 1 Corinthians 3:17-24, it lists his sons, including Shealtiel, and further generations such as Zerubbabel, who became a prominent leader in the post-exile period. So Matthew traces the legal ancestry of Joseph, his adopted father, going through the royal line from Solomon to Jeconiah to Shealtiel to Zerubbabel to Joseph to Jesus. So if the king dies along with all his kids, then by royal right, a cousin would become king. It's still the Davidic line because the cousins are still direct descendants of David.
The Davidic royal bloodline no longer existed by the time Jesus was born.
It did, if you understand how bloodlines work.
And that's why, inside of the Dead Sea Scrolls, they were expecting a Messiah to come from the bloodline of Aaron the priest, or from Joseph of the multicolored robe slash coat.
Well, I don't know how true that is, but people have been wrong a lot. So what?
Those were the bloodlines that they were expecting a Messiah from, because the Davidic royal bloodline had already gone extinct.
No, it didn't.
So help me square this circle.
You know, a square circle is just called a cylinder, right?
Why do you believe Jesus is the Messiah when he couldn't have been?
Because he is, and when you research how things worked, he's the only one who could have been.